Welcome to Seven Trumpets Prepper. And guys, in this video today I want to talk with you about something that's been on my mind for probably a year. I've seen this building for a long time, especially with many of the people that come to the channel, the comments that are made and things of that nature. And I really want to discuss this topic with you today because it's something many people don't see going on in their lives. And that is, stop rejecting the spirit of truth. Alright, about a year ago this time I made that video about who the true Hebrews are. Now I'm going to go through a list of a lot of things today. I'm just going to start there with this because that's where I seen the train starting down the tracks. You know, many people have brought up the fact, it's like, well, if Messiah's a black man, I just can't accept him. You know, that's just, I can't do that. I mean, just some of the horrible things that people said. I mean, even a recent comment I seen on that video was, I must like black people or be in love with one, so that's why I made that video. I married a Native American woman, so that, that totally takes that out of perspective. But if she was black or one of us was white, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you love somebody, then that's how it is. But it just shows the spirit of rejection in people's heart. It's not a color issue, it's not a race issue, it's a heart issue. Because the fact is if Messiah was green, I would still serve him. The problem with humanity is that it's two things in this last generation. It's peer pressure and it's the hardness of the heart, and that results in the rejecting of the spirit, which eventually will lead to that person being completely lost and losing their eternal salvation. The problem that, I see this growing constantly amongst humanity, and it's not just on my channel. I'm a tiny little speck out there in the middle of nothingness when it comes to the world as it is. But, no matter what the situation may be with the Scripture, it says that who the true Hebrews are. There's plenty of examples in history and in the Scripture of who they are. If you can't come to terms with the fact of that, then that's a problem with you, not with what's truth. And you have to work yourself around that. You can't work that in to your perspective. It don't work that way. And I know that's a hard pill to swallow. That little red pill, it's hard to swallow sometimes, especially for some of these other things we're about to get into. But I thought I would start right here because I've gleaned a lot of thought process about how that people reject Scripture, because it's not that the Scripture's wrong. See, at the end of the day, Scripture has always been right. The more and more I live, the more and more I see, the more that it validates everything for the last generation, especially Hanok, which that's something I want to touch on also, is that, I've seen on the other side of the fence people that are not, black, that so-called black man, or the true Hebrews. I've seen, from white people and from other races around the world, ask the question, well, are we going to end up serving these people in the new kingdom? That's an interesting question you asked, because before I even knew really what the color was of the true Hebrew, the number one thought process that's been in my mind, should I make it and be counted worthy to enter the new kingdom, is that my one petition would be to ask Master Yahweh if I could be a servant in the house of Hanok for a duration of time to learn at his in his presence. Because if there's any man that's been in the presence of the Most High Yah for many, many passings of the moon, many, many months that's went by, many years and generations, decades that's went by, it's Hanok. He was with him from almost the very beginning. So if there's anybody that knew what the Most High knows other than the Son himself, it would be Hanok. So, my petition was going to be, if I made it in the kingdom, was to ask to be the first thing out of the gate. You'd think most people are like, oh, I just want to enjoy eternity and be free and do what I want. My first petition was to ask to be a servant. I know that may be a tailspin, but it's for a good reason. Is I want to know the knowledge that the Most High's give to that man, because he was in his presence from the get-go. So, now moving forward, knowing that he's, what color he is, that don't change anything. It doesn't change anything. And I don't understand why people have such a hard time rejecting the truth, except for it's the truth. That's what it is. It's not about the outside picture of what's really going on. What's the underlying tone is that they're rejecting the Most High himself. Now, I'm about to get out of the Hebrews, go into a couple other things, you'll see what I'm saying. But one last example on that is everybody teaches the Messiah so kind and loving and accepting. When you read the pages of Scripture, he straight up told some people they'll never inherit the kingdom. I mean, he told that to the Pharisees. Also, we see Messiah going into the Father's house and people's buying and selling in there, and he grabs a whip and starts running, makes a whip and running people out of it. It's everybody skews the truth to make them feel all warm and fuzzy inside and to fit their world around them, when actually you need to fix your mind and fit yourself into the Scripture, because that is the truth at the end of the day. Now, moving forward, let's get into another example of this. Is, the calendar. Everyone says that, we should worship on the Sabbath day. I've never had an issue with that. The problem that people get into, as I see this rejecting of the Spirit speaking to their heart, is that when you figure out and you do your due diligence to set and see that, the Scripture describes this timekeeping principle. And then I look at the world today, and the man of sin in Rome and his calendar tells me to worship another way. Then the problem continues to get compounded when you see these people set aside time for the appointed feast by the lunisolar biblical calendar. But yet then they continue to fellowship and engage in their worship service to the Most High on the SUN day or the SAT day. And I don't say the pagan days of the week anymore for those of you who know me and follow this channel. So you have skewed your world there to fit for you. The problem with that is the Creator's calendar and the Roman calendar ain't one and the same. So then, because one chooses to engage their religious fellowship and worship on the Creator's appointed times and disregard Rome's appointed times, all of a sudden you're a cult, or you're lost, or you're a pagan. I mean, it blows my mind at how skewed that, what it is it's a rejecting of the Spirit. Because the Spirit, through the Ruach, spoke to the prophets of old, spoke to Moshe. The Most High himself spoke directly to Moshe and inscribed these things down, instructions in how to walk. And yet when one rejects that and speaks against it, are you not speaking against the Spirit? Think upon this. So, to condemn those that are trying to walk in a righteous path, and then condemn not only them, but then speak against the Word, which can be found, the clear instruction which they're walking in, are you not speaking against the Spirit? Are you not rejecting the Spirit? It's a dangerous thing, people, and there's multitudes that engage in this activity of rejecting not only the Word and how the people are going about it, but rejecting the Spirit which invoked the Word and is motivating people to follow it. Because everybody's worried about going around and saving the world and getting people to be saved for the kingdom. That's a wonderful thought, to want to have people saved for the kingdom. But at the end of the day, it is the Spirit. It is the Most High. It is the Son reaching into the heart of people and drawing them into Him. We can't save people. You can only live an example before them and speak the truth before them. But you can't save them. You have to understand that. And at the end of the day, it's a filtering process you can see really quickly in the last generation, this shaking that's going on right now, as knowledge is just completely exploding everywhere, that people are seeing it, are walking in it, and then there's those that are immediately rejecting it. And not only rejecting it, but condemning those that try to walk in it. If we lived in the days of Stephen today, if we could fast forward from when Stephen was stoned to today, I would be stoned too. Because we have become a society where there's Phariseeism and then there's the way. I should put this a little better, is there's the world's doctrine and the mingling of righteousness and uncleanliness, the profane with the clean, and then there is the way. And everyone wants to walk partly in the way, but take their own filth and profane and uncleanliness and walk in it. And then there's very few that walk down the right path. And those people are condemned because of it. And you can see the rejection of the Spirit. They have a likingness to godliness, but they don't walk in it. And I constantly tell everyone that I'm unclean, I'm unworthy of the kingdom, I'm a sinner, and pray for me. I want to do that which is right. And when people have a spirit in them to live, to try to do that which is right. It's a clear division between those that seem to have this all of a sudden self-righteousness about them all the time whenever you bring these truths up. Now, I'll give you one example of this and move on to another topic. Is that I had the opportunity to work far off-grid with an individual for many months. Well, I'd known the person for years before that. And it was for a right cause. You know, it was for the kingdom, what we were doing out there. And at the end of it, the individual sat and rejected the Most High, Yah's word, cursed at me. You know, I mean, you could just see the overflowing of the rejection coming out of their heart. And what you will see with time, especially as we grow closer to the end days, and we are in the end days, is that people's hearts are starting to finally show forward who they really are. I mean, what you see right now in front of you, hey guys, this is me. This is how I feel in my heart. And, you know, I don't have nothing to hide. I love the Most High. At the same time, I openly admit I'm a sinner and want to be saved and forgiven of my sins. On the flip side of that, you always see the other people puffing themselves up and having an elevated thought inside their heart that, you know, I'm above this. You can really see the Phariseeism coming forward in people's lives. As we move forward, when I started really looking into this a year ago and really observing people's lifestyle, we move forward now to a year ahead and where we're at today. When I finally came into the truth of the flat earth, there was an overwhelming rejection of it. Now, what was interesting to me with this is a couple of things. Is number one, is just the fact that it happened, that I came across it. You know, it wasn't something that changed me overnight. You know, I took time to study the things out to see if they be so. What was really interesting is I did not begin that process with Scripture. I went with science. That was the first time in forever I've ever went about something. You know, I always address everything, Scripture first, and then we'll figure out the rest from there. I went a different path. I went with science. And that led me over to the Scripture, which blew it completely out of the water. And when I concluded that the earth is flat, that we live on a flat, geostationary, circular disk under a firmament that's set above us, that separates the waters that are above the firmament from the waters that are below it, and that we live on a landmass on it, and the earth has pillars, it forever changed my thought process. And it showed me very quickly that the Scripture where it talks about the clay lifting its hand, you know, against the potter, you know, to put it in perspective, you know, will the tool speak against the one that formed it? I mean, you know, it really put it in perspective for me, the spirit of rejection in people's hearts, because people have come to the conclusion in life now that they would rather, their religion is science. You know, I mean, it's bad when people know the storyline of Star Wars better than they do the Scripture, and yet they want to speak about Scripture. You know, it's like the scum at NASA. All these people, they want to indoctrinate your mind with their false religio science, and at the end of the day, you take what they give you as, this is, you know, you take these mathematical figures and you look at this world you live in, and okay, this is how it's supposed to be. But yet you test all their subject matter, and it fails. And then you go back to the Scripture and you look at the Scripture, and then you see all these people getting up above the heights of the clouds. You know, Satan wanted to get up above the heights of the clouds, ascend above the stars of heaven in Isaiah 14. Yet here we are with simple little weather balloons and things like that, and getting up ascending into the heights of the clouds, and yet it's flat. Who knew? Well, the Scripture did. And people use, you know, I've seen people argue the fact, Isaiah, you know, you have a Scripture in Isaiah saying that, you know, he sits upon the circle of earth. Well, that means Baal. Well, no. You go over here in Isaiah, and he used the word for Baal in another context. So if he wanted to say the world was a Baal, it was a Baal. And when you get to the core of the matter, what happens is it's not a problem with me. It's not a problem with you. You know, if you accept the world's flat, or if you accept the true calendar, or the true Hebrews, and so many other topics. These are just some examples. It's not a problem inside with you or me. It's a problem with those people, that they know it's truth. They can feel the burning sensation of the Spirit inside their body like I feel. I just feel wonderful inside right now today, just knowing that I know these truths, it just burns inside of me right now. But it's not a problem with us. It's a problem with them. It's a heart problem. And you can't fix that, and I can't fix that. Only the Most High can fix it. You can lay these truths out in front of people. You can lay the Scripture plain before them, but only they are going to be the ones that accept it to walk in it. One thing that stuck out to me above all on all these topics is, well, the true Hebrews, the calendar, all these things you find throughout Scripture. But the flat earth is profoundly throughout Scripture, but something changed with me with that, and which I think spawned this video today, that finally put the nail in the coffin to make it, is that atheists, out of all people, atheists are a very unique group of people. They have no religious doctrine. They do not ascribe creation to anything. Well, some do to Darwinism, which that also is interesting, because once an atheist accepts that the world is flat, this earth in which we dwell is flat, and that we weren't just made out of some primeval ooze or a big bang, but yet we live on either, as they see it, a flat plane unending, or, as the Scripture, a lot more in context, teaches that we live under a dome, a firmament on a flat earth, and you see an atheist acknowledge, promote, and accept this, that is one of the greatest red flags I could ever see for Christianity. Because when an atheist accepts the world in which they live, the creation in which they live, and that it is differed to that which science and the government and those in the elite and those with the puppet strings that are led to lead the world astray, when the atheist describes that the world is as the pages of Scripture says, then from Genesis 1 to Revelation, and the other documents that were not put into the King James Version Bible, once you read all these historical Hebrew manuscripts of the Israelite people, and you see that it says what that atheist is saying is pretty much what the world looks like, then you have a serious heart issue. Because the one that will not ascribe to the Master accepts that he lives in a terrarium, a fishbowl, should you say. Yet you, as a believer in the Most High, say that we live on a spinning ball out in the middle of a universe that is ever expanding, and that, well, we might not be alone out there. Well, see, then the problem arises, which I'm going to get into in another video, is that you can be open to accept Spiritism, and you can be open to accept that demons might be aliens, which actually they're not, they're just demons. And you can be open to accept the Big Bang, and open to accept Darwinism, but yet when everything gets minimized down to the fact that you live in a geostationary flat earth under a dome created by a very divine creator, and the earth is his footstool and he sits above it, kind of like the movie Truman Show, where that you see Christoph sitting in a chair and there's a footstool-like table in front of him with a little miniature of the Truman Dome that's in that movie. It kind of puts things in perspective for you real quick, that the problem with humanity is humanity. You see, it's not the fact if a man is black or white, that's the true Hebrew. It's not the fact if I count off on this calendar or that calendar. It's not the fact if the world is a globe or flat. The problem is once that Scripture tells you what it is, once that your mind itself can see it, but yet you still reject it in your mind and heart, that it's a rejecting of the Spirit. It's a rejecting of the truth. And at the end of the day, if you're one of those people, you have a problem. I made this video today as a response to not only comments on my YouTube channel and to many of the things that people have said out there, but a response to many of you out there that I know that are on the fence. When you feel that burning sensation inside, to seek things out to see if they be so, and you find out that they are so, it's your responsibility to walk in that light, accept it, and be obedient to it. Master is watching. And at the end of the day, when I prostrate myself before His throne in judgment and ask for forgiveness and that He accept me into the new kingdom, I don't want to be guilty of the sin of transgression of rejecting His Spirit of truth when He spoke to my heart. I would encourage you to be one of those people as well, that when you feel the Spirit speaking to your heart, and you've studied these things out to see if they be so, don't let the fear of man hold you back from going forward and walking in the truth. Especially if you're a man, have the testicular fortitude to stand up today, and when something is right, say, that's right. If it's wrong, call it like it is, people. We're living in the last days, and the time to be on the fence, well, it's pretty much cut and dry. So I hope this is a help to you. I hope this gets you thinking. I hope it makes you be more vigilant about when the Spirit speaks to your heart, walk in it. So until we see you again here at Seven Trumpets Prepper Channel, I hope you have a most blessed day in Yahushua's name.